once it's up in your head and up in your brain, it's there forever. And it can never, ever, ever get taken away from you. So no matter what's been horribly or wrongfully stripped from you or taken from you, or whatever trauma you've endured in your life, you get the opportunity to go and learn and to go and become better, even if you've been stripped completely bad. And I was like, that would be a really cool podcast for you to respond to. Because no matter what you've been through and no matter what you go through in your life, any business, you are the prime example of someone who is just constantly learning, and everything that you've learned, like there's no one in this world that can take any of that away from you. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Anything Goes with Anna Rose. We today, friends, deal with a slight cold because I have definitely recorded all of these episodes on the same day. You know I love a good podcast block. So excuse the slight nasal tonation that you will have heard the last couple of episodes. But today, my loves, we are talking all things mindset. And it's actually really poetic, really beautiful, and really accidental, to be honest, to literally do this episode off the back of last week's. I don't know what's the word called? Order in which you will listen to these episodes in months or years to come. You could have just like found this and been listening to it ad hoc. But if you have not actually listened to last week, so it will be 102. This should be episode 103 if my math is correct. What a fucking milestone. Go back and definitely listen to that and how I spoke into the power of glorifying brains as well as bodies, 100%. But I want to say this, and my bestie Katie, who works for me, also edits all of my episodes. So I'm like, this episode is brought to you in part by Caitlin Bashara. Because she actually sent me a really beautiful text yesterday, and I'm going to read it out. This was like part of my inspiration of this episode. Well, she actually voice messaged it, but it's like voice to text. So I'm going to read it out, and then I'm going to dive into part of my story and my response to her essentially and where this episode has come from. But it's really fucking powerful and really important. So Katie messaged me. She said, wait, I'll play some of it actually. Here we go.
Hello, it's me.
Sounding fucking tired.
Wildly tired because I'm just laying on my bed having a rest, trying to work up the energy to pick up my girls and then get ready to go and teach tonight. But
I love her.
I was just watching this girl's story, and she works in the courts, and she was telling a story about how one of the magistrates was talking to a juvenile defender or a juvenile offender, and the magistrate's advice to them was like, go and learn, go and educate yourself, because once you educate yourself, once it's up in your head and up in your brain, it's there forever, and it can never.
Okay. She may play that. I don't know. Katie gets to do what she wants on this podcast. She may play the entire text. But basically at that point she says, because once it's up in your head and up in your brain, it's there forever. And it can never, ever, ever get taken away from you. So no matter what's been horribly or wrongfully stripped from you or taken from you, or whatever trauma you've endured in your life, you get the opportunity to go and learn and to go and become better, even if you've been stripped completely bad. And I was like, that would be a really cool podcast for you to respond to. Because like, no matter what you've been through and no matter what you go through in your life, any business, like you are the prime example of someone who is just constantly learning, and everything that you've learned, like there's no one in this world that can take any of that away from you, because it's up in your brain and it's 100% in your control. There is so much information out there to be learned and to be harnessed and executed to make a difference in your own life. So then she goes on to beautifully say, and Katie, you have full permission to play your voice message to me. But basically she goes, maybe it could be a little potty topic that you could talk about this weekend. And it was beautiful because she also knew I'd riff with her this week about the whole, why are we celebrating bodies and not brains? And my response to her, and Caitlin, you are so welcome. By the way, her name is Caitlin. Or Katie. I get asked this so often. My endearing nickname to my best friend is Caitlin, but her name is Caitlin. Let us put that on the record, friends. She will be laughing listening to this. But my response to Katie was, firstly, thank you, my love, for seeing me. And thank you so much for thinking of me when you listen to these things. And I said, I so receive that because that is me. And it's something that I've always talked about. It's something that is very well known in my circles, and definitely in my family, that when I was brought up, and I am going to share a story. So this episode will come with a trigger warning, because I am going to talk about one of the worst, I don't know how to even, what was it, like fist fights, essentially, that my stepfather, who was violent towards me, bestowed upon me. I'm going to share that story, and my response to it. But I said to her, it's very well known, and I've always been open about this, that for some reason, and I am so grateful that when in my life I was abused sexually and or physically. I was raised in both. And if you don't know that story, go back and listen to, I don't know what episode it is, but it's basically like the story that broke me and then made me a half Iron Man. I was raised since birth in sexual and physical violence, not from the same man, different men. But my stepfather was super violent, and a man of God, a man from the church, was sexually abused me for 10 years. And in that time, because I felt so out of body, I was never in my body. And that's why Move Like You Love Yourself was the very first step I took towards loving myself, because I wanted to become back embodied in my body. But the most powerful innate knowing that I had, and it was my form of rebellion, and I'm so fucking grateful, is that every time, or more times than not, it was, it was every time something bad happened in my life, my rebellion was like, you know what, fuck you. You want to rape me, you want to abuse me, you want to do that, you want to take that from me, you want to hit me, you want to punch me, you want to do anything to me, you cannot take my fucking mind. You cannot take my mind. And so I applied myself to schoolwork, and I applied myself to education. I remember I was young. The abuse started when I was 3. The physical abuse, the sexual abuse started when I was born from Adrian. But when I was abused young, I remember we had an encyclopedia volume, which like made me feel so rich because we were so poor. And I would I read the encyclopedia from A to Z, because I was like, well, you can hurt me, but you cannot take my mind. And then I remember doing like extra, like I'd get homework and then I would do more homework, because it was my escape. My escapism was words, and my escapism was anything that would take me from my physical reality into a mental haven. And so my rebellion was my mind. And I was like, you can take fucking everything from me, literally. Because when you're young and you're being sexually and physically abused, I mean, what have you got? You've got nothing. You have an unsafe, toxic, fucked environment. And that was my reality until I was 10. And so I was 10 for sexual and then 16 for physical violence. And so for me, my rebellion was my schoolwork. And I never got a B in my whole life. I was a straight A student from year prep to year 12. I got ducks of my school in high school. I got top student of my state, Western Australia, for a subject. I was top student of multiple subjects across year 11 and 12. Like, I'm smart. And I'm proud of that. And a lot of people don't know that about me. I put myself through university. I got offered honors. I worked full time. I studied full time. I did a bachelor's degree, and then I did a double and a minor. Like, I got brains. And that's always been my rebellion. It has always been my rebellion. But my reflection back to Katie was, I said, I really appreciate you telling me that this magistrate, essentially this judge, was telling this juvenile offender, because I said that's always been the story that I've told. And Ryan is just so beautiful, my king. And he always tells people, if people sort of start to learn a little bit about me, he's like, she's so brilliant, because instead of choosing darkness, she chose light. Oh, and I'll cry. And it's so true. But because no matter what happens to you physically, no one can ever take your mind. And I'll tell, so the story that I want to tell, that I feel like will drive this home, and just to tell you or help you understand, I suppose, like who I am in a sense, and like the power of choosing your fucking mind every single time, and not choosing to pick up a bottle or food or destruction or I say prostitution, like whoring yourself, like using your body. So choosing sex or food or alcohol. And women that have done self-love school know, like, the hill that I die on is like every breakthrough, every breakdown and every breakup, we do not choose to fuck, eat, or drink our way through it. We feel our feelings and we get it done and we work on ourselves. But I was 16, and my mum actually recently acknowledged this story, and she never had. So it was a really, really healing, I don't know, moment, I suppose, in my life. But and this is, so I'm going to start my story, and I actually blacked out. So there's a lot of my childhood that I blacked out just from like horrific trauma. You black it out. But mum finished the story for me, and that was really healing. But so, trigger warning, I'm going to put it at the front end. But my stepfather, this is known, was horrifically violent towards my mother, and us kids. And I, for some reason, was like the chosen one in a fucked up way, that out of all the kids, I was definitely beat the worst. And I feel like, who knows? I don't know why. I think sometimes so just so you know, when I was younger, I decided the story I had created in my mind was that because I sat next to mum at the dinner table, like I copped it the most because I was always like physically closest to her, until mum told me, like, no, I put you next to me at the dinner table because you were the kid that was hurt the most, to almost try to protect you. So isn't that funny? But you know, what we internalize and the stories we create as children. But there was one particular day, and this was the day we fled. So this was the day my mum finally chose, under no circumstances, that she was never going back, and we finally left him. And I've done whole episodes, by the way. Go back and listen, like go back through the titles and try to find some. I've definitely spoken about this, not all the time. Like, this is not saying I need to sit in trauma all the time, or like trigger that for you. But I have definitely spoken about this on multiple occasions, and I've also very much cleared up, I think, in the story that broke me and made me an Iron Man, how I hold, there's not a cell in my body where I hold, what's the word? Like, not I mean, definitely not resentment, but no blame is the word. No blame for my mum. It was an era where this DV was even more common, essentially, or definitely more commonly hidden, in a sense. Mum constantly called the police. I was raised with police at my house every other week. Nothing was ever done. There was definitely no services like there is today. It was definitely there was no laws. Cops would come, show Bob their gun, you know, tell them behave, you're a bad boy, and then leave, and we get beat worse. Like, and the cycle repeated. So, you know, times have changed, and aren't we so lucky? So, but this one particular day, I was home by myself, and I was doing my homework on the couch because I had like some 4:30 p.m. project on like whatever show I was watching on TV, and I was doing my homework quietly on the couch. And I heard the front door, and I knew it was Bob, and he came in, and you know, like, if you've ever been in DV, like if you're in that situation as a young child as well, I was 16, you know, you just know, you learn footsteps, you learn energy, you become hypersensitive and hyper aware. Anyway, I knew from just his fucking footsteps that he was in a mood, and I just shut up, closed up. And I remember doing my homework, and he stood in the kitchen, and he was like, yelled at me and was like, you need to clean this fucking house. And I was like, yeah, no worries, I'll get onto that. And because I was like, I don't want to antagonize you, no stress. And we always did, we always just did what we were told. So, and he went on and on and on. He was yelling at me, you have to clean this house, get the fuck up. You kids are like, rah, rah, rah. And I was like, yes, I'm doing it, no stress. Now, in my head, it doesn't even matter, but I feel like I always over explain this. But I was like, okay, I need to clean the house. So I'm messy, right? My folder was there, my homework was all scattered. So I cleaned up I cleaned, like, packed up all my folders, packed up all my schoolwork, my pencil case, and I took it into my bedroom, which is just through a door and then through another door. And then I hear, so I'm in the bedroom. I've taken like maybe 15 steps. Like, it wasn't far to my bedroom. And I've put the stuff on my desk and then I hear it. And it was fucking terrifying. And I'd heard it 1,000 times, but he was running and he was a fat, big man. Like, he's just was a fat, big man. And I just hear this and I was like, I'm fucked. And there was no hiding. There was no locking yourself in a door. Like, I would always lock my mum in our room because my room was the only room with a lock. But at that point, I was like, I'm fucked. Like, I just knew that too late. And I got dragged from my bedroom by my hair into the kitchen. And I got beat the worst I've ever been beat. And I had hot water put on me. I had plates broken on me. I was thrown across rooms. Like, I don't mean DV like a slap or I was smacked too hard. I mean, like, we were in really horrific, he should be in jail. I one day will write a book sort of DV, and dragged to the kitchen. Potatoes were thrown at me. He was boiling hot water on the stove to put on me, like threatening it. He didn't do it. He was hitting me, just whacking me so why did that happen? So he was angry that I had disobeyed him because he had told me to clean the house, and I had disobeyed him by first walking to my bedroom. And in his eyes, I should have stood up and began immediately. Now, in my head, of course I had, right? I was packing mess away, which was an element of cleaning the house, to then put mess away to then start the process. But that was his childish, psycho reasoning of why I deserved to be beat that particular day. Anyway, I black out. I don't remember much after that. So at that point in the kitchen, I black out. So I don't know if I had passed out. It's very well that I probably had of from the beating. But I definitely know that I have no sort of memory recollection after getting just physically fist closed, punched, hit in the face a couple of times. I just remember at some point later that day, I remember being the day that my mum fled. I remember being in my bedroom. So this is the point. Cut to hours later, the memory that I have of the rest of that afternoon and evening was that I was in my bedroom crying, but I was at my desk, which was like my sanctuary, doing my science homework. I remember the exact project I was doing. I was doing which I got an A plus 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 on. And I remember getting that assignment back being like, Miss, that's not even a grade. Like, it's an A plus, sis. But she's like, no, it was just that outstanding that you got 3 pluses. And I remember doing that. And I remember mum being like, pack your things, we're going. Like, we're getting out of here. And then that's when we finally broke free. And I remember we left, we all fled. There was like 5 kids. We went to Augusta or my auntie's, I think. And I remember 2 weeks later, mum saying, okay, we're going to go home now. But you just have to be prepared. Like, we probably are going to go home to an empty house, but blessedly we didn't. He actually had just fucking left, the piece of shit that he should have. But how that actually went, so just so we all know, and I genuinely don't remember this, is that mum says she came home. So what finally like shocked her into leaving, because she did, to be fair, he did do a lot of the abuse away from her, essentially. So if mum had left the house, or if he was looking after us, or a lot of the time I was beat like secondary to my mum. So like mum would get beat up and mum was like fleeing, like, running into our bedroom for her life. And like I'd try to shut the door and then it would be like, picked up by the hair and hit in the face, because it's like, how dare you try to protect her sort of thing. So I fully understand. And I blacked out. So I'm like, imagine what my mum would have done. But the end of that story actually goes that mum had walked in and we had a massive games room. So big like glass doors. And then in the back of the house essentially was like a massive games room, again with massive sliding doors, glass sliding doors, then the room and then glass sliding doors and then the pool. And I don't know if like still to this day, I'm like, I probably would have died, I would imagine, because why was I by the pool? Why had he taken me passed out by the pool? I'm like, was he going to put me in the pool? Was he going to like, but mum says she came home, walked in the kitchen and saw he was holding me up like by the scruff of my like neck essentially, but like by my clothes and was hitting me closed fist in the face by the pool. And I was gone. So I was like obviously blacked out, passed out from the not the terror, but the injuries. And mum obviously screamed, ran out, broke it up, put me in my bedroom. I don't remember any of this, luckily. And again, I was obviously passed out, so thank God. But what I want to say, and this is such a psycho extreme example, but good. Maybe this is what you need to hear. And whatever then transpired, and this happened, I could tell you 10,000 more stories like that. Not as maybe extreme, but coming in, throwing me against a shelf or pulling a shelf down on me, throwing me against a wall, punching me in the face, like just tens of thousands of examples. And the very next thing I would do, because it hurt so bad, was pick up a book, finish my homework. Like it was always one of the two. Pick up a book or finish my homework or create an assignment that I didn't even have that I would give myself. Like I remember doing like so many, I love animals. And I swear I love animals because when I was younger, I would give myself assignments to lose myself in mental space and work. So I would like rewrite out the encyclopedia, like re-paraphrase entire sections of the encyclopedia on tigers or dolphins or whales or whatever other animal that I was obsessed with. Giraffes. I remember doing one on giraffes at the time. But that judge was right, is what I want to say. Because I sit here today as a woman. I get so emotional. So proud. And again, like, you know, now if you like, that's again, like a story I've never told on the podcast. But hearing that, you can understand, unfortunately, like I'd healed events in my life for sure, but I had never healed the wounds, like the father wound, the mother wound, the abandonment wound, etc. So yes, of course, like acknowledging like, no, not accidentally, but you know, unconsciously, yes, of course, unfortunately, that's why I got into my own narcissistic DV relationship for sure. But even when Trent, the night that I realized, so he stole my 400,000 USD, which was Ethereum, which just so you know, today is worth over $1 million, what he stole. He stole that. And then he split my lip open, choked, like the whole night of terror. That is, I will share on a podcast when I have a professional in the seat soon, when I'm ready as well. You need time. That night when it happened, that night, I mean, it was probably I didn't have a phone, so I didn't have a phone for 3 days. So I don't know times, or I know dates, but I don't know times. But it was the sun was definitely coming up. So like 5 or 6 a.m. And this is what, 2022. So 2 years ago, just over September 2022. The night that happened, and you know, he's like, I've taken your money. Like, and I was like, wanting to die, like going just, almost wish he did kill me, right? This is in the moment, not now, fucking hell. But in that moment, I remember thinking, you fucking wait. You fucking wait. I am not only going to come back from this, I am going to make myself so impenetrable and so fucking healed. Because at that moment, I definitely was like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, that was the plan in place, flew him home, blah, 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 like did all the things to get away. But for me, I look back at that and I'm like, again, I remember the smell of my blood. Like, I remember the feeling that I had. I remember the fucking pounding in my face from the split lip because I wasn't allowed to get help. I would go into the whole traumatic fucking horror story. But I remember every smell. I remember every second. I remember everything. But I was like, and he did horrible things sexually. Like, it doesn't end at the physical abuse. And I remember just thinking, do whatever you want to try to fucking end me, but you will never take my mind. You cannot end me. And I remember in a sick twist of fucked, like, moment, Trent said to me, he literally said to me, he was like, I have tried to fucking end you in every way. And he was like, well, I can't deny you're fucking unstoppable or something. Like, it was like this comment. And I was like, oh, if you only knew. Oh, nothing will kill you. That's what he said. Nothing's going to kill you, is it? And I was like, nah, nah. And I can sit here today and have gone through trauma after trauma, abuse after abuse, violence after violence. And I wish this upon no one. I pray that your story isn't even a fucking millimeter within mine, but some stories are far worse than mine. Some are on par, some are different, some are worse in their own respect. The thing is, I can hold space and respect that if a woman breaks her nail and that's the worst thing that's ever happened in her life, I will cry, and she's crying, I will cry with her like it is like the worst violence, because if that's the worst thing that's ever happened, then that's the worst thing that's ever happened. However, I would still tell her the same thing, that no one can take your mind. No one can take your mindset. And the more you work on this, the more that you control this, the more that you become unstoppable up here, the more that you apply yourself with your brain, the more that absolutely you look after yourself physically, 1 billion%. But when this becomes a fortress of impenetrable, you become unfuckable with nothing, and no one will stop you, and nothing and no one can kill you. I mean, that's the extreme of it, but it's the truth, right? You will survive your darkest day. You will get through your darkest hour. You will succeed against every obstacle that comes your way. You will stay out of jail. You will stay off the drugs. And this was, I mean, I've told the story on another podcast, but it was like a sentence I said. But my sister recently, we were talking and she said, because my 4 siblings and I are very different. I'll never go into their stories until they ever want to sit on the couch and share it. But we chose very different things, very different things. And my mum used to always say to me, and I was almost like, stop saying it. Don't speak it into being. But she used to say that, sweetheart, I'm so proud of you that you're not a prostitute with a needle in your arm. Because that was my potential reality. With all of the abuse and all of the violence and all of the everything. And this was when I was young. This isn't even like recently I could have chosen stupid choices. But it's like I got stolen from, I got like hurt, I got abused again, physically, sexually. It was like, you can't break me. You can try to stop me, but you're not going to break me. And all of that is because I focused on my mind. So to the judge who told that offender, work on your mind, control your mind, work on your mindsets. I sit here today as a 36, almost 37-year-old woman, having literally been at the doors of hell so many times in my life, saying, I agree. Work on your mind. Control your mind. Work on your mindset, because no one can take that away from you. Nothing can take that away from you. No body, no thing, no situation, no circumstance, no trauma, no tragedy, nothing can stop you when you have control of your mind and you put all of your effort into working up to an impenetrable mindset. And if you're like, but fuck, how do I do that? You just work on your emotional intelligence. You work on, listen to podcasts, read books, and it's not even like on psychology or on on a podcast about mindset. For me, I've literally just been in the personal development game since I was 22, since my rock bottom moment, which I'm going to share on next week's episode, because I'm going to talk about the new structure of self-love school for 2025 and beyond. But at my rock bottom at 22 years of age, I was like, I fucking hate myself. Fucking hate myself. Of course I did. You just heard one story of 10,000. Of course I did. But was I going to be a victim of that? Absolutely not. Was I going to be a victim of my circumstances? Was I going to be a victim of my story? Definitely not. 2 years ago, was I going to be a victim of my story? Was I going to let that stop me? Absolutely not. And why is because I have absolute and total control of my mind. No one can take that from me. So shit's got to fucking happen again and again and again and again in life. Yes. I'm going to lose more. Definitely. I'm going to have grief probably that when I lose my mum, like touch fucking wood. But it's like life is going to life. When I lose Zeus, oh my God, like life is going to life again and again and again and again. But it's who we are and how we respond to that matters the most. So I don't know what has happened to you in life. I don't know the tragedy or the trauma or the fuck ups or the failures or the breakdowns or the unfair bullshit that has been served your way. But I know any external circumstance that has come your way, it means nothing when you start to control your internal compass. When you start to look at your mind as it is the strongest and the most capable and the most brilliant tool that you have in your toolbox at attacking and succeeding in life. So that is my wish for you. Start today. You already actually are, literally right now. If you will listen to this podcast, you already are working on the number one thing that you need to work on, which is your mind. So congratulations and well done. Like, this is the work. This is it. So just keep going. Double down on it. 10x on it. I never stop. Katie sent me that. Let me tell you, I know exactly why Katie sent me that, because we had just spent the morning. I was just showing her that day. I had talked about, we had set up the entire structure for my company's 2025. I was talking about all of the stuff, how I want to evergreen and the fun, like the systems, automation, funnels for self-love school, how I was in a current mastermind and learning all this new stuff. Then I switched into Talk Collective and I showed her like 7 spreadsheets already set up and ready to go and like all done, ready for 2025's Black Friday, Cyber Monday sale, and how I was in a mastermind for that. And it was like, she was like, I am so fucking inspired and motivated. And I was like, same, sis, same. But that is your job, right? As an individual that has chosen to come and live and play in this lifetime on this earth, life is worth it. And it's gonna life and it's gonna fucking throw you so many curveballs. I've been thrown quite possibly every single one. I don't know. I don't think there's much more else that I could literally, that I haven't been through, that I could go through. Who knows that I know life's gonna be like, hold my beer and like prove me wrong. But I just know no matter what comes my way, and I know nothing that happens from here and nothing that has happened since like I was 22 can knock me off center. No one can take my mind from me. So you can hurt me, you can hate me, you can fucking betray me, you can come at me, you can come after me, you can try to end me, nothing will fucking knock me off center. And you can take that to the bank. So you can be like that too. If you work on your mindset and you focus on prioritizing, feeding and like working on, I was thinking about a garden, like feeding and tending to your garden, which is your mind and your brain, as the highest priority in your life. I will leave it there. Sorry, that was a deep one. I'll put like a little trigger warning at the front of this. But yeah, until next time, my loves, this is the second last episode of 2024. What a fucking trip. That is so wild. It has been about 6 months of consistent podcasting weekly now. I am so proud. I am so grateful. We can all thank Katie for this. She's like, I mean, I sit and do it every single week, but she was like, we're going back consistent. So we love Katie. But yeah, last things, this is the thing, guys. So it's like, okay, where do I start? Start in my inner circle. this was not meant to be a plug, but it's like, if you want to be like, okay, I'm so inspired at the end of this, like, and I want more, and actually now I know even more about you, like, how do I learn more from you? Guys, I literally have created a space called My Inner Circle where once a month I get on for 90 minutes and I coach, and I mean high fucking level coaching for 90 minutes. And every single recording is put beautifully in a login area. You get journal prompts, you get affirmations, you get so much in there. All my current reads, playlists, everything for $47 a month. You want to work on your mindset? Start there. If you need something else, or you're like, I'm actually inspired and I want to do something or do more, or like, yeah, play bigger, then start there, my love. Please start there. Link to that will be in my show notes. But otherwise, I'm going to love you and leave you on the second last episode. And until next time for our final episode, stay wild.
Thanks so much for listening to another episode of Anything Goes. And if today's episode gave you maybe a new perspective, a little bit of a laugh, you learned something new, or just loved our trip to Taboo Town if we went there, it would honestly mean the world to me if you could leave me some love with writing a review and sharing this episode to your socials. You have no idea how much that helps my little podcast get out in the world. If you love what you gain from these conversations weekly with me as well and want more than just listening in, come and join My Inner Circle. It's my monthly mastermind where for just $47 a month, the real magic happens. You get me up close, no filter, live coaching. And if you get what you get from this free podcast, imagine what you get in a paid container. Links are in the show notes, friends. And until next time, stay wild.